Kia ora, good evening. Welcome to Central News for Thursday, the 12th of June. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Business owners in Oropi and Windermere are counting their losses today as they wade through sodden stock after heavy rain caused flooding last night. Storage King, which lies closest to the Waimapu stream on Roxanne Place, spent today trying to contact more than 100 customers whose storage lockers were flooded when the floodwaters backed up on the high tide. Auckland-based operations manager Lorraine King says floodwaters were about 300 to 400 millimetres deep all through the lower level. The Bay of Plenty has recorded the highest spending growth in the month of May, with electronic transactions up 10.2%. Canterbury saw an increase of 8.6% and Waikato increased by 8.5%. Growth was slow in Wellington, which recorded a 3% increase, and the West Coast with a 1.8% increase. At a sector level, trading was strong for those operating in the hospitality sector, with a 14% increase year on year. Food and liquor stores also recorded an increase of 12.3% in spending from the same month last year. Bay of Plenty residents could save $300 a year on their power bills by switching to solar power, says energy spokesperson for the Green Party, Gareth Hughes. Gareth visited Tauranga this week to promote the party's switched on plan for cheaper, cleaner, smarter power for New Zealanders. During his visit, Gareth also visited Mount Maunganui renewable energy company Power Smart Solar to learn about the benefits of reduced reliance on big power companies and lowering power bills. The MP says solar power is a fantastic opportunity, particularly for the Bay of Plenty, which is one of the sunniest regions in the country. Eastern Bay of Plenty Hapu will enter into direct negotiations with the Crown for the comprehensive settlement of all Ngāti Rangitihi historical Treaty of Waitangi claims. Tērā te hahiata hikitia I te repa te tara ki te maunga ke rua wahia taku maunga tuturu I te mana o Ngāti Rangitihi, otherwise known as Te Mana, has received a 77% approval rate from its iwi to proceed with the negotiations. Te Mana will now take this mandate to the Minister for Treaty Negotiations, Christopher Finlayson, for formal recognition. The final result was confirmed by elections yesterday, with almost 30% of eligible voters taking part in the mandating process. The number of voter returns reflects the same turnout as Te Mana's trustee elections in 2012. Te Mana Chairman Graham Pryor says the result is pleasing and shows that the iwi is ready to move forward. Now for our region's marine forecast. West Coast easing to 15 knots tomorrow afternoon. Rough sea easing as well. Southwest swell 1 metre. Poor visibility in the rain though. Your high tide is at 9:53 a.m. in Raglan. East Coast Bay of Plenty, southeast 15 knots, but 25 knots, gusting 35 knots in the west, easing to 10 knots, but 15 knots in the west in the morning. It's pretty variable out there. Rough sea in the west, easing in the morning, becoming fine earlier in the later on in the day. High tide in Tauranga is at 6:45 a.m. Just ahead, World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. Sunday is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. As the elder population grows, there seems to be more and more cases reported in the media of elder abuse and neglect. I spoke with Age Concerns Michelle McGee about the subject and some advice to those wanting to look after their family member or members themselves in their family home.
My advice would be to access all the help that's available. There's a lot of things out there. There's carer respite, for example, where the person that you're looking after can go temporarily into a rest home just for a day or a few days at a time, just to give the carer a break. My advice would be to contact SupportNet, who are the needs assessment people in Tauranga, and they'd be able to advise you what you're entitled to.
I can imagine there is a lot of a certain level of stress that comes along with that. Is there anything that can help us with that?
Again, my advice would be to access all the help that's out there and to talk to someone. That's the main thing, is to actually express that you need help and it is available.
Is it mostly family members or carers that abuse the elderly?
It's mostly family members. Our statistics are showing 70 to 80% of abusers are family members, and up to 35% of abusers are primary caregivers, but that can be a crossover. The caregiver could also be a family member.
What are those different types then?
Most family members, it's about power and control, and it's about having control of that situation, and there's an awful lot of a sense of entitlement as well. Carers, you can get kind of waylaid a bit by the amount of stress and misassessed, but usually it's about power and control.
With the baby boomer generation and the prediction of elderly care shortages, do you think we could be looking at more and more cases of elderly abuse and neglect?
Not necessarily for those reasons, but I think we will be looking at a continued increase in the amount of reported cases, although we know that really is the tip of the iceberg, and elder abuse and neglect is very underreported.
Why do you think it's underreported?
There's several reasons. Secrecy is a thing that keeps abuse going, so it's often kept secret. Older people will often be threatened with the loss of contact with their grandchildren, or with worse care from the caregiver if it's a member of the family. And privacy. Today we think that privacy is so important that we often don't intervene with neighbours or friends when perhaps we should.
Is there anything we can do to stop it?
The main thing we can do is to respect older people and to treat them as valued members of society, and to actually listen and realise that just because people have grey hair, they're not invisible and not worthless. And it's really about respect and cooperation.
Do you think as society there is, on a whole, there is that kind of attitude of disrespecting the elderly?
Absolutely. We're an ageist society, even if we don't think we are. There's a lot of general discourse in daily living that goes towards putting elder people to a sideline.
You can visit Age Concerns website for further information. 100 years ago, the Waiho Community Hall was built, and today it still stands. The committee are planning a big celebration on Sunday and put together storyboards.
Well, we've collected all the anecdotes and all the pictures we could find and put them into a display of a series of 8 storyboards. We were inspired by the display that's outside the Waitoa village, just opposite to the dairy, and we thought we would have a permanent record of how the hall got there and what has happened. And that will be available for people to look at as they come into the hall in the future.
Sounds very interesting. Do you think, I mean, surely 100 years ago there's a lot of history, but do you think that community halls have a relevance now in today's society?
It's a community facility which is available to the local community, and Waiho's particularly fortunate because it's a dormitory area, and where other districts have been depleted because of the reduction in farm labouring and all the rest of it, Waiho's maintained its numbers. And the hall becomes a focus that the community can look at. It's one of the most important buildings in that area, and we've kept the inside up. We've just spent a lot of money redoing all the toilet areas, and we've doubled the storage, and we've upgraded the kitchen, whereas the auditorium is still as it was in 1914. So it's a very attractive facility which everybody can use, and we keep the costs down to a minimum.
So what's an average week like for the hall?
We have bowls on a Monday, brass band on a Tuesday. What else do we do?
You're dancing on a Friday.
Oh, we have dancing on a Friday. You're welcome to come along. It's great fun. Good exercise. And we have the occasional booking for a family do or a wedding.
So it's a very busy place then.
It's pretty busy.
Yeah, once a month.
So what's your personal relationship with the hall, being a Waiho resident for many years?
Well, as I say, I've as a child, that's where we had our concerts and fancy dress, because the school did not have a hall. And then as my life's gone on, I've always lived in the district, so I've been involved. I've been on the hall committee, and now I'm hall treasurer. And I just think it's a fantastic place for the community.
What's your personal relationship with the hall?
I practically live there. I arrived at a point where the hall was in a crisis because the roof had deteriorated, and we needed $22,000 to replace it, which was a big ask. And I joined the committee, and started to work to try and get the hall used so that we'd get public support. And we got 3,000 from Anna Stratton, which, and we made 6,000 out of the Anna Stratton show. And the what's the name? The Lion Foundation came to the party and gave us another 10. They've been great supporters of the hall. With that money, we're able to get a brand new roof on, so we're good for another 50 years at least. And we've been going from there ever since. And my wife thinks I live at the hall, but I do go home occasionally.
Make sure you head along on Sunday to the Waiho Community Hall. Coming up next, sunrises and sunsets. Welcome back. Rosalie Crawford is a bit of a Tauranga personality. She can be seen rugged up playing the piano outside the Pizza Library in the Mount most nights, or strolling the beaches taking amazing photos of the sunrises and sunsets. She is the lady behind many social media community initiatives like Rise Up Tauranga and Humans of Tauranga. I caught up with her to find out what inspires her.
So the reason I started taking the photos is because I had my own life experience where I reached ground zero, and I think this is probably why I do a lot of the voluntary things I do, because up until that time I was very competent and capable and high achieving, and thought that I could do most things, self-sufficient, and my whole world got broken, and I experienced quite a trauma from that. I had worked in medical science, so I'd worked with emergency services and cross-match laboratories, so I was used to emergencies. I could deal with those and function really well in emergency. But in a personal, kind of emotional life trauma, I found that I didn't function, and it's impacted on me quite significantly. And I would have periods of time where I'd wake up and I felt like my mind had frozen, my brain had gone numb, and I couldn't get out of it, and it would last for about 10 days, and then I'd come right again, and I just found that it was getting worse. And then I discovered that there were a few things you can do that bring you into a good space, and for me, painting and doing some creative things actually bounces me back. So I spend probably one day a fortnight painting, and I've recognised that we all need a good balance in our lives. So I started taking photos of sunsets because part of the life change that I had was I actually became a Christian, and that for me was an amazing moment where everything changed. Like I felt like I was completely new on the inside, and I know it's sort of unusual. You probably didn't expect me to say that. And when I've been doing anything voluntary, I have actually not tried to push any of that on people, because it's not about that. It's about inspiring people to go and live their lives. So what I found was I went outside, everything looked different, like it was greener and the sky was bluer, and I suddenly realised it was just completely different, and life was full of hope, and it just changed becoming a Christian changed my whole life and perspective. So I was reading the Bible, and it's about the third chapter in, it said that God walked with Adam and Eve in the quiet of the evening, the still of the evening in the garden. So I thought, okay. So I went outside and walked and just sort of, hey God, how are you doing? And then it was so still and restful. I looked around, and then there was the most amazing sunset. So I rushed back inside and got my camera and came out and photographed it and stuck it on Facebook. And people responded to this and felt uplifted. So I just got into the habit of every night for about a year, I was going outside and just filming this. I then moved across to the Mount and was on the beach at sunrise and capturing these sunrises and sunsets. And by that point, I'd set up the Papamoa Facebook page and the Mount page. We had Rise Up Tauranga. So I found that it just gave people a bit of a perk at the start of the day. Put the photo up of the sunrise and people just went off into their day. I don't know, it just gave them a boost, which I thought was quite interesting, really. Like yesterday, I took a photo of the sunset at the Mount, and I looked this morning, it had 5,000 views and over 200 likes, and it was an amazing sunset. But I think people they feel good about this is where I live. It's a beautiful place. So really, just looking at the beauty around us and doing that. I found that I was connecting with people that I'd never connected with before because of my own experience and what I'd endured, that I had lost, hopefully, also judgments about people in different life conditions, and if they were kind of failing at life or just not getting traction, instead of sitting back and going, well, grow up or get over it or build a bridge and get on with it, harden up. Instead, I realised that sometimes people are doing the best that they can do, but they just need someone just to pull them back up the bank so they can get going again. And that really was when I got to the New Testament and read what Jesus did. I thought he wasn't sitting around in a church, he was actually out helping people and not judging them, and just really practical ways. And I thought, if I'm going to outwork what I think it means to be a Christian, it means actually practically doing something, and just without any strings attached, just freely giving out. And as I went along, sort of stumbling along on this, it's when Rise Up Tauranga was just starting, and all I had that I could donate to someone was an old second-hand washing machine. That's all I had that I could give. And then I realised that actually what I had was the ability to coordinate people, so that, because everyone wanted to do something, but where do we start? So having a structure or a process or a way to do it helped many more of the community get involved in that. So I really wanted to be kind of behind the scenes, but was finding that every time I sort of fronted on the page and spoke to camera and said, this is what we're doing, lots more people got engaged in it because they were hearing that story. So I've tried to be very respectful of other people's situations, and tried to really see, we could respond in a way that people are enlarged, that they feel valued, that they can feel that they can pay it forward and they don't owe anything, or there's no strings attached, because I just felt that was what love is about, is freely giving, freely.
After the break, excellence in volunteering. Welcome back to Central News. There are many out there who give up their time and energy for nothing in return, but Volunteering Waikato will be rewarding all those who deserve it next Friday. Welcome back, Heather.
Thank you.
A busy time of year for you at the moment with the Volunteer Excellence Awards next Friday?
Really busy. We're working through about 220 RSVPs, making name badges for them all, finding all of the prizes, catering, everything that goes with a big event.
Now, there are a couple of different categories, aren't there? So what are these?
Yeah, we have traditionally it was a Volunteer of the Year award. A number of years ago they added a Team Excellence Award. So there's an award for teams of volunteers, there's the Volunteer of the Year, and there's the Volunteer of the Year Youth Award for volunteers under 25.
Oh, wow, okay. And why did you guys want to expand it? Was there just so many volunteers that there was a need, or?
With the Team Award, often an organisation like Lifeline, for instance, found it difficult to pick out one or two people from a team of, say, 50 telephone counsellors. So that was why the Team Award was introduced. And the Youth Award, typically people who are nominated for the Volunteer of the Year have been volunteering for a very long time. So it's difficult to nominate an outstanding young person in the same category. So we wanted to introduce a youth category so that we could take people on the merit for what they were doing now, taking away the 30 or 40 year history.
Are you finding there are a lot of more youth volunteers out there nowadays?
Yeah, we are actually. I think partly what we notice, we're based in Hamilton, so we've got a university and a big polytech, but also we're finding that young people have a really strong sense of community and social justice and contribution. And they're also seeing volunteering as a really useful way of gaining work experience or some practical experience to go along with their academic study.
Now, because the awards have actually been held for almost 20 years, so who have been some of the more recent recipients?
So last year the Volunteer of the Year was a man called Bob McLeod, who I think volunteers for just about everything in Raglan. So he was nominated by the Community House, but volunteers for many organisations. The year before was a woman, Heather Kinlock, who had been volunteering for Girl Guides for ever, a long time. The team awards, I mentioned before Lifeline, we've had Riding for the Disabled, Alternatives to Violence. Last year it was the Order of St John Health Shuttle Drivers in Thames, so quite a wide range.
Yeah, now most people who volunteer are pretty special in their own right, obviously. How would you explain that that feeling, that reward that you get?
No, I think it depends on what you're wanting when you volunteer, what you're wanting to gain. For a lot of people, they volunteer for an organisation that they have a passion for or some kind of personal connection. So when they give something back to that organisation, often it's a sense of pride in making a difference. We all want to be able to make a difference and do something meaningful. As long as you're in a role that means something to you and where you feel valued, the benefits are huge.
Well, all the best for next Friday. Thank you very much for coming in, Heather. If you'd like to get involved with Volunteering Waikato, you can visit their website volwy.org.nz or their Facebook page. Now for the weather for our Friday. Hamilton, your Friday will become fine with the southeasterly gradually easing. 17 and 4 your expected temperatures tomorrow. The rest of the Waikato looks like it is clearing too. Fine southeast winds gradually easing. Paeroa 17 and 5. Matamata 15 and 5, Te Awamutu 17 and 4, Tokoroa 15 and 4. Tauranga becoming fine in the morning with fresh southeasterlies. Your expected high is 18 and an overnight low of 9. Te Puke the same for you with 16 and 9 your expected temperatures. Well, that is good news. It looks like the storm is finally over. Hope the cleanup hasn't been too bad at your place. That's us for today. You can get in contact with us via our email, news@tvcentral.co.nz, or like us on Facebook. Tune in tomorrow night to see all our Field Days coverage. I'm Hilary Entwistle. I hope you have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.